Hello, this is Thomas Lauderdale of Pick Martini. You are listening to U.S. Modernist Radio.
Mama don't allow no architecture around here. Mama don't allow no architecture around here. Oh, I don't care what Mama don't allow, gonna draw mine modern anyhow. Mama don't allow no architecture around here.
Welcome to U.S. Modernist Radio, where we talk and laugh with people who enjoy, own, create, dream about, preserve, love, and hate modernist architecture, the most exciting and controversial buildings in the world. I'm Tom Guild, and I've got a question. Who's the author of that architecture book sitting on your coffee table? It might be written by one of our two guests today, Dominic Bradbury and Adam Stech. Later on, we welcome back the inventive jazz artist Elijah Rock. And who's that guy in the wildly colored tux walking around with a martini? It's probably your host, Mr. Modernism, George Smart.
Hey, thanks, Tom. Our President Trump announced a $200 million, 90,000 square foot ballroom at the White House. And suddenly, Washington design community acts like he's choreographing the architectural apocalypse. The outrage machine is in overdrive, calling the project ostentatious and out of touch. Because apparently, nothing says resistance quite like getting really, really angry about a ballroom. If Democrats want to change the political landscape, perhaps they should consider focusing on, winning elections? Yet here we are, watching the AIA and other grown adults complain about this ballroom as if Trump is going to burn the Gettysburg Address. The big, beautiful absurdity of this situation is that the project will be privately funded, making the outrage a bit more pointless. People treat this addition like it's unprecedented, but presidents have been renovating the White House since, forever. Apparently, this crosses some sort of imaginary line between historical preservation and fascism. And there are so many other important issues one could complain about. Here's a wild thought. How about building a compelling message for the 2026 midterms? Developing a platform that resonates with heartland voters, basic democracy stuff. But what do I know? I'm just an archivist, apparently not sophisticated enough to understand why a ballroom is a constitutional crisis that we've all been waiting for. U.S. Modernist Radio is underwritten by Diane Bald and the Budman family, restoring significant architecture in Toronto, Los Angeles, Malibu, and Palm Springs.
A UK-based journalist, lecturer, and author, Dominic Bradbury is one of the world's most prolific architecture authors, including the Atlas of Interior Design, The Iconic House, and Off the Grid, Houses for Escape. His latest book, Mid-Century Designers, celebrates visionaries who define the look and feel of the mid-20th century. We're talking about people like Charles and Ray Eames, Florence Knoll, and Gio Ponti, plus other innovators in furniture, lighting, ceramics, textiles, and tableware. Here's George's conversation with Dominic Bradbury.
Dominic, every time I talk with you, I am just amazed at the volume of material that you are researching. I mean, this new book is 300 different designers. It's about 350 pages, and that's kind of par for the course for you. I mean, you are turning out a massive amount of research. How do you do it?
Well, I've been asking myself that question. I've been starting to wonder if it might be a problem. I might have a problem, and that there might be a touch of the sort of workaholic developing.
Yeah.
But I think the problem is, you probably find this as well. I think these projects sort of tread the border between sort of work and pleasure.
Yes.
They really are sort of fun projects to work on. And I imagine you must find the same kind of thing. So, if an email comes in or a bit of research in the evening, it's quite tempting to sort of slide back to your computer or do something at the weekend or, go off and visit something. But I am sort of wondering if perhaps at some point I'm going to have to get some help.
Maybe there's a 12-step group for architecture researchers.
Yeah, Researchers Anonymous.
Yes, exactly. My wife refers to this project as an extended seizure. So there's that.
Yeah. But do you find this as well? Are you just sort of constantly?
Absolutely. Yeah. Particularly when, something comes in an email that's totally unexpected. Like, I'm the granddaughter of some famous architect and I've got this thing I want to share with you. Do you want to see it? It's like, yes, I sure do.
Yeah, well, I think this is a similar thing, and then the hours slip by, the kind of days slip by, but it's all,
Oh, yeah.
when you're on that borderland between work and pleasure. I mean,
Yeah.
it's a very fortunate position.
It is. How many books have you written now?
Uh, well, I think I need to recount. It was a bit of a learning curve at the beginning,
Yeah.
so few I probably wouldn't count there, but I think it's about 40 or so.
40. So I'm seeing like about every 8 months, roughly 6 to 8 months is a new one.
Yeah, I mean, it depends. There has been a bit of buzz recently. I mean, they are a bit like buses, as we say in England, so nothing happens for a long time, then 3 turn up at once.
Yeah.
Last time we spoke about another project, an Atlas project, and I think that was about 6 months ago.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it's been a bit of a role, but a very enjoyable role. I think also there's just that feeling that, well, perhaps people aren't going to ask again. So, you have to kind of keep going while the engagement is there, while people are still interested in what you're doing. So I think there's that feeling at the back of my mind. There's a kind of neurosis.
I can tell you that every house I walk into, there's one of your books.
Well, that's good to hear. Because I think the other thing is that as a writer, I spend a lot of time in libraries. I spend a lot of time at my desk. I mean, every now and again, I'm really fortunate and go out and do a sort of road trip. And then there'll be a lecture or a talk or something like this. But, a lot of the time, you're sort of working in isolation, or you're working with, 1 or 2 colleagues on a project. But the feedback is fairly limited. So it's always good to hear that there might be a reader somewhere.
Oh, yes. There are lots of readers. And one thing you can count with a Dominic Bradbury book is it's going to be comprehensive. He is going to leave no stone unturned. This new book, which is called Mid-Century Modern Designers, has a few architects in it, but it's mostly people who were designing things for the mid-century. So you're talking textiles, furnitures, lamps, fixtures, even some consumer products that we're going to talk about. I was just amazed that this is 300 different designers that you profiled in here. I mean, this is a huge swath of what was going on in the design culture at that time.
Yeah, and I think, as you say, there was, some multidisciplinary designers sort of working at that time. So people who were, as you say, architects as well, like Giaponti or Jornitz, who were in the book, but were also designing buildings, or Arne Jacobsen and so on. So, I mean, I think one of the most fascinating things about this whole period is these polymaths who are working across very different fields, but often achieving great things in these different disciplines. So, I mean, I think that's something that sort of continues to fascinate me. And I think the results of that also fascinate me, and you get this kind of cross-pollination between sort of different design disciplines. You walk into a hotel by Arne Jacobsen and he's designed the building, he's designed the furniture, the cutlery, and so on and so on. So I think a lot of those connections, I think, are really fascinating.
These designs inspired when they came out and continue to inspire. I understand that you were inspired by some Bertoia chairs in your dad's office. Tell me about that.
Well, yeah, my dad used to work at the University of East Anglia in Norfolk. The university was one of the new universities of the 60s, so it was designed by Dennis Lasdon. But they got hold of a whole shipment of Harry Bertoia chairs. So when I would go up and see my dad, as a kid, I was sitting in a Dennis Lasdon building without realizing it. And then I'd often have to wait for my dad outside his office. So I'd be sitting on a Harry Bertoia diamond wire chair. And I think going back to the sort of need for psychological help, I think all these things are sort of quite embedded.
Yes.
And the irony is that at some point, I think the university had a big clear out of furniture. So a lot of these Harry Bertoia chairs just disappeared.
Oh, no.
And they would sort of turn up in auction houses sort of around East Anglia. But
oh, no. What a mistake.
Yeah, it was a terrible mistake. But I think fortunately the Sainsbury Centre's managed to hold on to some of its sort of better furniture. So the Sainsbury Centre's alongside the University of East Anglia, and that's like a Norman Foster building. They've managed to hold on to some nice pieces there. Every time I go up to the university, I'm kind of hunting for the Harry Bertoia chair.
Well, let's talk about three of the designers from your book. Alvar Aalto is the most famous architect to come out of Finland, celebrated for his building still, and also was a consummate designer of different things. What was he all about?
Well, I've become obsessive about many things, but including Scandinavian designers. And the last couple of years, I've actually been doing quite a number of trips within Scandinavia for a number of projects. And so we went to see Alvar Aalto's house last year. We went to Helsinki, which was a real treat. But I think actually the house and the studio helps to kind of encompass his status as one of the great sort of polymath designers. The house, the studio, which sit side by side, were designed by him. You know, practically everything in that house, you know, the furniture, the lights, were either designed by him or his wife. So I think when you walk into one of his projects like that, you just sort of see him in everywhere and through so many different lenses. I think I've seen that in other projects that he's designed as well, that sort of written about in the past. And I think he is probably one of the greatest examples of these sort of polymath designers that we were talking about. Just this ability to see lots of different scales, lots of different dimensions, sort of all at the same time, and then somehow to put them together in your imagination is quite an extraordinary thing. Somebody else who said design is just a question of scale. So you're just thinking a different scale. So one day it's a building, one day it's a piece of cutlery, but it's essentially
Right.
You're looking at the same sort of principles or problems or challenges in a creative way. I'm a sort of huge Aalto fan. I think the other thing about him is his devotion not only to architecture and design, but to craft, to materials, you know, this sort of soft, warm modernism that his work encapsulates. So he's like an architect's architect or a designer's designer. He's just one of these people who I think really inspires.
Well, on the smaller end of the scale, there's a designer I think hardly anybody knows who designed a item that you see in every Chinese restaurant, Japanese restaurant. It is the bottle of soy sauce we have all seen, generally from Kikkoman, that has the red top or the green top. Who is the designer of this wonderful piece?
So this is Kenji Ekowan. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. But we have a number of Japanese designers in the book. Part of the remit of the book was that, you know, it should have a global reach. So even though it's an A to Z format, we definitely wanted a global reach. So there's sort of a number of Japanese designers who are sort of emerging just after the Second World War. A number of them had been involved in sort of state-sponsored design programs before the war. And then after the war, so during Reconstruction and sort of revival process in Japan, product design was, as well as furniture design, was one of these areas that was very much promoted in terms of the economic reconstruction of the country. And again, a number of these designers were polymaths, sort of interestingly. So you've got these sort of Japanese polymath designers, people like sort of Ekowan, you know, talking of scales. So at one end of the scale, he might be designing a train, you know, a sort of bullet train. And at the other end of the scale, he's sort of designing the soy sauce bottle that is in my kitchen and probably your kitchen.
Everybody's kitchen, yes.
Everybody's kitchen. And I think if we're going for a soy sauce, this has to be the one, and you just sort of know it from the shape of the bottle, and your hand just fits round the neck of the bottle. You know, when you're in the supermarket, you just grab for it, and it's there. It's such a simple object that I think so many people would just take for granted, not really think about, but ergonomically, it's quite brilliant. You know, you from scooping it up on the shelf as an instantly recognizable consumer product or object, you know, taking it home. And you don't have to like decant it. You don't have to fiddle around with it.
It's just right there.
It's right there.
I loved seeing that in your book. That is really great.
Sorry, yeah, that was part of the mix. I think it was just trying to have, furniture or televisions or soy sauce bottles. Yeah, that was part of the breadth of the project.
Another product design, which is sadly obsolete now, was one of my favorite sounds growing up because my dad had one of these for his architecture practice, and he would make slides to go into it. And when you press the button on the side of this machine, it would go pa-chunk-a-cha-chunk, pa-chunk-a-cha-chunk. This is the famous Kodak carousel slide projector with the round carousel of slides up on the top. Who designed that? Because that is a beautiful piece of equipment.
So, yeah, we're talking about Hans Juglo, who was a German designer, kind of a contemporary kind of Dieter Rams group of industrial designers in post-war Germany. So a bit like the Japanese story we were just talking about in Germany and Italy. You've got this sort of post-war industrial revival that is partly being driven by product design and product designers. This slightly younger generation, and also a sort of younger group of entrepreneurial figures like the Braun family. So, they are actively looking for design teams that are going to design innovative projects and products that will take their company forward and allow them to compete in the international marketplace. So the carousel you were talking about was a Kodak product, and I kind of miss it too. I miss slides, actually,
Right.
The physical slides that you could put into the carousel, which I think we still have some in our attic. But because we don't have the carousel, we have to look at in those tiny little box viewfinders.
Yes,
You remember?
yes.
But Hans Juglo and Dieter Rams, I think they were better known for their work for Braun. So it's things like, the electric razors we're talking about. Again, that I sort of remember very fondly, and working on the early generation of sort of phonograms and hi-fi systems with Braun. So the two of them in the early days worked together, sort of developing something called a Snow White's coffin. It was like the turntable, the radio with the Perspex lid. And then after that, kind of Rams took that further with Braun to develop this whole spectrum of, wonderful products.
I remember with slide projectors, they were very boxy and had big metal parts. They were ugly on the top, and you would load in this square cartridge, essentially, and it would shoot the slides through. And it worked, but it certainly wasn't as beautiful or as elegant as this carousel concept. And immediately, Kodak just monopolized the market. Everybody wanted to have the Kodak carousel slide projector.
Yeah, talking about Kodak, I mean, designers like Kenneth Grange, the English designer, he was working for Kodak. He's also in the book, developing this sort of extraordinary range of kind of consumer-friendly, tech-driven products that transformed the fortunes of the company, took it into sort of international recognition. Whereas Kodak today, I'm afraid, is...
Well, they had some other problems. And of course, yeah. But let's, for their time, they were way ahead of it. Yes.
Absolutely. And I think, you can kind of compare Dieter Rams and Hans Juglo with Jacob Jensen in Scandinavia, Bang & Olufsen. Mm-hmm. So you probably remember those Bang & Olufsen hi-fi systems.
Oh, yes. Gorgeous.
So beautiful.
So gorgeous.
Somehow you can't really match that today, I think. I mean, one of my secret desires is to go out and find a vintage Bang & Olufsen hi-fi system, get all my vinyl out of the cellar, and just sort of sit there revisiting my childhood.
The new book is Mid-Century Modern Designers. If you have a vintage Bang & Olufsen system, please get in touch with me and I will get this information to Dominic so he can proceed with this project because I know he has a lot of spare time. Thanks so much for joining us, Dominic.
Thank you. Yeah, good to see you. Thank you.
George was speaking with British author Dominic Bradbury. Adam Stech doesn't just admire modernist architecture, he chases it across continents. Based in Prague, Stech is a writer, photographer, curator, lecturer, and editor of Dolce Vita, a Czech design magazine. His latest book, The Modernist Travel Guide, is a pocket-sized passport to modernism. It features nearly 400 hand-picked buildings across 30 cities, drawing from Adam's 150,000 photographs, documenting over 10,000 buildings in 40 countries. Wow. His traveling exhibition, Elements, launched in London and has since made stops in Austria, Switzerland, and France. George recently spoke with Adam via Zoom.
Adam, welcome to the show.
Hello. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here with you again.
Before we talk about your book, The Modernist Travel Guide, I want to ask about your OCD, your obsessive compulsive disorder, Adam, because like us, you have accumulated a vast amount of material. I understand your archive, which is not online, sadly, is 150,000 photos and 10,000 buildings. Is that right?
Yes, I really didn't count it yet, but I think I am somewhere on this number. And it's growing exponentially, I think, because last 5 years, mainly after COVID, I really extended my travels and I'm trying to document as many as possible structures. So yes, it's an obsession, as you mentioned.
Well, it's a very healthy obsession. We applaud it.
Thank you.
And I was talking to Adam before we got on about his new book. It's called The Modernist Travel Guide. And it's very handy. It's not huge. It's not one of these giant coffee table books that you can't carry with you. This is very portable, right?
Yes.
So you can take it with you on the plane. And the thing I like about it, besides all the descriptions of wonderful places to visit all over, from Paris to Tokyo to Lisbon to Cairo to Brussels, is that this book is really exceptionally well designed. Who designed this along with you, Adam?
So this book was designed by Matěj Chinčera and Jan Klos. They are my colleagues and one of my best friends here in Prague, Czech Republic. And we know each other since 15 years. And they designed many books, which I produced already, and also exhibitions and other creative projects. So obviously, they also designed my new book, The Modernist Travel Guide. I like their approach because it's quite simple, but effective, visually and also practically effective layout, which I like.
The book covers a great deal of material, and one of the things I like about it is you've got some of the usual places that people know about, but you've got a lot of unusual places as well. Tell me about one of these, the Villa Müller.
Oh, Villa Müller in Prague?
Yeah.
Yes, of course. It's one of the icons, you know. It's a house designed by Adolf Loos in 1932. And I guess it's one of the most important works of residential architecture ever built, because Adolf Loos created this so-called Raumplan, the special adjustment of the rooms vertically. So each room has special level, and it symbolizes its position or hierarchy among the space. This house is possible to visit. It's a national monument. It's a museum. I highly recommend to any architect and fan of architecture going to Prague without visiting Villa Müller. It's a sin.
And one of the things I learned from the book, which has quite a bit of history in it, too, I was fascinated by this. I didn't realize that after World War II, modern architecture was prohibited in the Czech Republic.
Oh, yeah.
By the new communist government. Why was that?
Yeah, because in the 50s, at the beginning of the 50s, when the rest of the world, or let's say the Western world, it was a heyday for modernism. In Czechoslovakia back then, we had really like a communist dictatorship, and the communist dictatorship was pretty much influenced by Soviet mentality and Soviet cultural politics. And it means that Stalin was in favor to socialist realism, which was basically opposite to modernism. It was architecture full of decoration, full of historical symbols and so on. And he basically, the Communist Party back in the days, they saw modernism as a elitist, capitalist style. So I even know that some architects in the 50s, they were in the jail because they were like kind of fighting for freedom and they were not really good for the Communist Party. So they were like really prohibited sometimes.
So the communists really didn't like modernism, which is good to hear because over in America, the classicists are always saying that modernism is favored by the communists, but now we're getting to hear the real truth.
Yeah, but I mean, it was in the 20s and 30s when, of course, all the famous architects, they were leftist or like they had social agenda. But when communists really came to power, they just want to celebrate themselves kind of. So they built these ornate, crazy, decorative structures.
Yeah. You also go through a lot of the interesting kinds of structures. For instance, you're not just looking at houses, you're looking at churches. There's even a bridge in Denmark. Tell me about that one.
Oh, Knippelsborg Bridge.
Yeah.
Yes, it's a beautiful example of modernist bridge. It's in Denmark, in Copenhagen, and it was designed by my favorite architect. His name is Kai Gottlob, and he designed a pretty wide variety of buildings. And I think this bridge very nicely represents his kind of streamlined, modernist, but yet poetic style.
How do people know whether or not one of these locations is open for touring? Do you have any information on that in the book?
Yes. I never did a guide before, so this is my first book where you have some also practical descriptions as well. So you have addresses of all places, and you have also some brief note on accessibility. But of course, not all the places are accessible. Some of them you can see just from outside. You can admire facade or entryway. Some places are public, so it means there are restaurants or public buildings like cultural halls, galleries, or concert halls. But we have also some really like private houses, which you can admire just from the street. So I wanted to put really a mix of typology of different type of buildings, but also different type of appreciating them, actually.
Did you get to visit one of these houses in the book, the Lillestrand House by Osipov?
Yes, I visited all the places.
You visited all of these places?
Yeah, of course.
Wow.
No, all the places are mine photos. All the photos in the book are mine. And it's my text, my photos, my curation. So for me, I'm not writing about houses which I'm not visiting anymore because the experience of it, it's priceless. And of course, Lillestrand House, it's amazing. It's Vladimir Osipov, the hero of Hawaiian modernism. And I think I was only one to travel to Hawaii, not to swim and be on the beach, but to visiting houses. And it was pretty much a fun trip.
Well, that's amazing. And folks, Adam is not an old man, so he has really gotten around the planet to see all of these places. How many locations do you have in the book, approximately, Adam?
There are 30 cities, and each city has around 14 places. So it's not too much, but it's not too little. So I think the book has something around 460 places, and they are pretty diverse. And maybe I call it as a kind of a starter pack for exploring because I have just very little text, it's just very informative, but I am encouraging people to explore more on their own.
Did you discover any of these in the book by accident?
Oh, of course.
That you just happened to be in the right place? What are some of those?
Many. For example, in Copenhagen, there is a place called Vetvolden, which is a beautiful modernist social housing blocks. Maybe not really social housing, like a middle-class housing blocks. And they were designed in the 30s. And I just went by my bicycle and I was like just stunned by the very clean facade out of the bricks. Very beautiful, subtle architecture. And then I went around and I found out that in these apartment blocks, there are very special artistic interventions by three Danish surrealist artists. Their work is very unique, like sculptures and paintings by these surrealist artists. And I would never find this building online, basically, if I wouldn't go there. So there are many places visiting by chance. And of course, it's sometimes one of the most interesting.
The book is Modernist Travel Guide by Adam Stech. Adam, thanks so much for talking with us.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
George was chatting with Adam Stech. Returning guest Elijah Rock is a singer, actor, dancer, producer, variety show host, and he's a lover of the Great American Songbook. His first album, Gershwin for My Soul, was followed by Matters of the Heart in 2021. He's played legendary Cotton Club star Cab Calloway in the musical review I Only Have Eyes for You. And as folks whose tuxes are always at the ready, we love that his concert publicity says, formal wear recommended. But he's not always uptown, he can also be down home. Elijah released a country album way before Beyonce ever thought about it. Welcome back to the show, Elijah.
Nice to be back. How are you?
Great. Yeah, we're good. It's really nice to see you again. I was preparing for the interview by looking at some episodes of your variety show. You had on Marla Gibbs, the great actress who is now 93. What was that like?
Oh, my goodness. She is such an incredible person. She represents so much in Black entertainment, but also in music. You know, she had a jazz club in Leimert Park in LA. Many people don't realize that.
No.
Some of the great entertainers played her venue. And she is a very spiritual person. She saw me live at a K-Jazz festival in LA. I was performing and she walked up to me basically and was like, I love your show.
Huh.
That's how I met Marla Gibbs. I mean, that's how I met Angela Bassett after a show one day. So these kinds of encounters are just so memorable. And then we became friends, of course.
Are you still doing that variety show?
No, I actually have episodes that have not been edited with some incredible people. I feel like someday I'll bring them out of the archives and I'll extend the show. But I've been so busy doing other things that I haven't had the time to put any emphasis on it.
Well, that's a good thing, right? If you're that busy.
Right. You need staff.
Yes, you need staffers, Elijah.
You are very right on, and that may very well happen. I mean, I do have a team, but my life is has a lot of tentacles right now.
Well, one of those tentacles, of course, are your amazing performances, and we're going to play a song, Route 66, which everybody knows. It was composed in 1946 by the American songwriter Bobby Troup. Now, Bobby married the incredibly sexy Julie London after her divorce from Dragnet's Jack Webb. And if you're old enough, you'll remember both of them from the TV show Emergency. Before the interstate system, Route 66 traversed the western two-thirds of the U.S., from Chicago to L.A. It's still there, although some sections have been broken up a bit. Nat King Cole first recorded the song, and it reached number 3 on Billboard. Bing Crosby with the Andrews Sisters also did a version, which reached only to 14. In 1964, the Rolling Stones had it on their debut album, something most people didn't know. And in a song review, critic Richie Unterberger called it the most famous rock version of the song, one of the best on the Rolling Stones album. And it came back again in a 1982 version by the Manhattan Transfer, earning a Grammy and inclusion in the movie Sharky's Machine. Here's Elijah with Route 66.
Take the highway, that's the best. I get your kicks on the Route 66. Oh, it winds from Chicago to LA. More than 2,000 miles all the way. Oh, get your kicks on the Route 66. Mexico, Flagstaff, Arizona. Don't forget Winona, Kingman, Boston, San Bernardino. Won't you get hip? Oh, to this time and tip. Oh, when you make that California trip, yeah, get your kicks on the Route 66. Come on, man.
Oh, man, that was fun.
Yeah, fantastic.
I love that meaty organ in there, too.
Yeah, that's Todd Hunter.
Oh, yeah? Did a good job.
This is from your new album, Memories Unleashed.
Yes, well, Memories Unleashed is my latest album. It is now 3 weeks on the National Jazz Radio charts. It is an homage to my father, who is living with Alzheimer's disease. And it was funded by a grant from the Global Brain Health Institute, of which I'm an Atlantic Fellow, also Alzheimer's Association and Alzheimer's Society. So it's a very unique project to amplify awareness around Alzheimer's and other forms of dementia. And just to have these incredible people work on this project produced by Rayford Griffin. This is all funded through my foundation, the Elijah Rock Foundation. And our mission is to really bring awareness to Alzheimer's and dementia through music, science, and technology. So, at the shows, we're conducting research. That's what Memories Unleashed Impulse One is all about.
I've seen on medical TV shows where they suggest that playing music that a person grew up with does tend to stabilize their symptoms of dementia. Is that true?
I don't know if stabilize is...
at least temporarily.
Or stimulate.
Well, I think nostalgia is good for our brains. The research is certainly pointing in that direction. Nostalgia, learning new things, jazz, because of its improvisational nature. There's a lot of research being done about, jazz as an art form, just like classical, the way the neuroplasticity works in the brain and the improvisational nature of jazz. Could this actually be rewiring the brain real time as you listen to it? But the songs themselves, the Great American Songbook, there's so much nostalgia. So to your point, there is a lot to say for memories and igniting memories. And that's why this music is so relevant to Alzheimer's and any kind of cognitive disease, because, if you can touch memories and relive memories, and these songs are so much about love, hope, and joy. And if you can do that and bring people, because I've actually seen real time where people are like, they're singing along, or it ignites a memory from the past, the first time they heard that song, or that song reminds them of their father or their loved one. So much potential there.
Speaking of nostalgia, this 1935 song was written by Fred Allert and Joe Young, and first came to fame by Fats Waller, who recorded it later that year. It came back in 1954 with Frank Sinatra for the album Swing Easy, and by Bing Crosby in 1957 for Bing with a Beat. Again with Sinatra in 1962 for his collaborative album with Count Basie. It's been covered by my favorite character actor, Scatman Crothers.
Oh, yeah.
Plus Barry Manilow, Dean Martin, Madeleine Peru, Tony Danza, Paul McCartney, Anne Murray, Willie Nelson, and even Larry Storch from the very old TV show F Troop. Here's Elijah with I'm Gonna Sit Right Down and Write Myself a Letter.
I'm gonna sit right down and write myself a letter and make believe it came from you. I'm gonna write words oh so sweet. You're gonna knock me off of my feet. A lot of kisses on the bottom. I'm so glad I got it. I'm gonna smile and say, I hope you're feeling better.
Feeling better.
And close with love the way you do. I'm gonna sit right down and write myself the sweetest letter and make believe it came from you. Play it. Smile and say, I hope you're feeling better, baby.
Feeling better.
And close with love the way you do. I'm gonna sit right down and write myself the sweetest letter and make believe it came. Baby, I'm gonna make believe it came. I'm gonna make believe it came from you.
That is so cool, Elijah.
Thank you.
It's fun watching you listen to your music.
Yeah.
Because we got the Zoom thing going on.
Thank you.
Elijah, what have you got coming up this fall? Where can people see you perform or listen to you?
Well, we're working on shows as we speak. We're working on a show in Los Angeles. So very excited about that, to be determined regarding the date. But it'll be at a theater in Los Angeles. We just had a billboard of my project, Memories Unleashed, in Times Square. So we're getting some great exposure. So more to come in terms of dates.
Yeah, you got to make the rounds through all those great New York jazz clubs.
Yeah, I do. Of course, there's some great venues. So we'll see what happens.
And don't forget, here in modest old Durham, North Carolina, we have the Sharp 9 Jazz Club, which if you're traveling through the state, you should make a booking with Dave, and we'll come out and see you perform.
I'd love to. Didn't even know much about the club, so now I know.
Elijah, thank you so much. It's a real pleasure having you back on the show.
Thank you so much. My pleasure.
Thanks for listening. U.S. Modernist Radio is underwritten by Diane Bald and the Budman family, restoring significant architecture in Toronto, Los Angeles, Malibu, and Palm Springs. Okay, Tom.
Visit usmodernist.org's massive archives to listen to past shows, discover documentation of 25,000 significant modernist houses, and access 5 million pages of classic 20th century architecture magazines. U.S. Modernist Radio is produced by Soundtracks Recording Studios in Raleigh, North Carolina. Our theme song was performed by George Smart and Robinson Earl with guest research by Bobby Morris. Got a guest to suggest for the show? Write her at bobby@usmodernist.org. U.S. Modernist Radio is a production of Modernist Archive Incorporated, a nonprofit educational archive for the documentation, preservation, and promotion of modernist residential design. I'm Tom Guile. George and I'll be back soon with another It's Just a Ballroom edition of U.S. Modernist Radio.